Welcome to Exploring Santa Cruz, a bi-weekly program on KSQD 90.7 FM. I'm your host for today, Mathilde Rand. Tax season comes around every year. For many people, this is an anxious time. The Seniors Council of Santa Cruz and San Benito counties sponsor Project Scout, an IRS-approved volunteer tax assistance program. Here to share their experience and insights in this year's tax season are Jen Shirchild and Dave Andrew, longtime volunteers with Project Scout. Jen ran Project Scout for many years and has continued as a volunteer since retiring. Dave has been preparing taxes as a volunteer for the VITA TCE program for about 17 years, and the first with AARP in Massachusetts. Then, since 2015, in Santa Cruz County with Project Scout when he moved to Scotts Valley. He previously worked as an engineer during his career with an MBA and software systems certificate, providing long-term career support. He has been always interested in numbers and always did his own taxes. So joining the VITA TCE volunteer efforts seemed like a good fit for him. Welcome, Jen and Dave. Jen, why don't you start with giving us a little bit more of a background into Project Scout?
Project Scout started in the 60s. There was a project up at UCSC looking at the needs of seniors in the community. And Scout actually started with the first meals program and a senior information program, and those gradually branched out into separate programs, and Scout continued to do tax assistance. The TCE stands for Tax Counseling for the Elderly. Now, the elderly is 60 and over. And the VITA program, which is Volunteer Income Tax Assistance, which is for low-income people in general. Yeah. The seniors don't have as many income restrictions, the senior program. When I first started, the year before I joined in, Scout was very excited to have done 50 returns online. And the last year before the pandemic, we had done over 2,000. Now, it's gone down during the pandemic because we've had to be really careful that we're not either contaminating our volunteers or the general public. But we're hoping that we're gradually going to be going back to that point of helping people.
Great. Anything to add, Dave?
Last year, I think the final total was about 1,200. I did quite a few of those, and most of those in my home in Scotts Valley. I have people coming to my house, and I also work with the senior centers in Scotts Valley and a couple of other places, including my mobile home park, to try to get as many people as we can. We have remote forms for people to give approval for us to operate online, and so we can pick up and drop off people and do the taxes at our leisure when we get a chance. I'm really committed to this program. I really feel it's very helpful. And I get so many comments from people saying, you changed my life, or you made such a difference in my life, because every time I see a tax return, my eyes glaze over.
Can you both share one experience that makes you want to come back year after year?
I can't exactly give you one experience because there's so many, and they're all very poignant. But I had one incident where one of my clients showed up at my house with a bunch of succulents and dirt and stuff, and proceeded to plant them in my planter. So now I have a very nice growth of succulents. But there's people that they can't believe that it's free. They want to pay somebody. So we say, okay, give to Project Scout.
We don't accept any money, any other gifts, actually.
Right.
No,
And volunteers can't accept gifts, but if people have want to donate, they can donate to Scout. My story, and having done it for many years, there's many, but the last year that I was running the program, a volunteer who had just been helping people fill out the intake form and all, but finally talked her into doing taxes, and she came up and she said, I made somebody cry. And I thought, oh my God, what went wrong? And I went rushing down, and there's this woman who was she was crying and she was pacing, and I went over and I said, are you okay? And she said, yes. She said she had been homeless for a long time. She had just gotten into her place. They had provided the first and last months in the deposit, and she had until the first of the month to get enough money to pay the rent, and she didn't know where it was coming from. And because of the earned income credit that she didn't know she would get, she had enough money to pay the next month's rent. And then she would have the time to build up for the next month. So it helped her stay housed, right? And that's just like, okay, then it's a good thing that you're crying. It's okay. I don't have to yell at the volunteer.
Right. So you said you helped this person, and Dave was talking about seniors, and you talked about seniors. Now, in general, who benefits from this program?
Well, everybody benefits from the program, because anytime we can bring money into the community, then that money gets reused time after time in the community. If you were to pay a paid preparer that works for a big corporation, then the money goes to the corporation. Mm-hmm. But we help people with all the credits. They get money. Oftentimes, we hear about they got their car fixed so they could get a better job that they could drive to. They could get child care so they could work. And then they spend the money in the community, and then it gets spent over again and again. They pay taxes on the stuff they buy. Mm-hmm. It helps the community as a whole.
Right. So you're saying is people get money either because of, and we'll talk about it in a moment, the child tax credit or the earned income tax credit. It comes to these people. They spend the money in the community because that's mostly what people do. And so the whole community benefits from it.
That's correct.
Gosh. You're both volunteers. Who can volunteer for the program?
In general, I think that the primary requirements are that you're not scared of numbers. And that you're willing to learn. At this point in the process, there's online learning, so you can do it at your own pace. Besides, if you're not comfortable doing taxes and you're still willing to take a couple of tests to make sure you understand what the rules are, you can help with greeting people and helping them fill out the forms, making appointments, answering the phones, because we're always overwhelmed by phone calls. So there are many, many ways you can volunteer and help the program.
Anything to add, Dave?
Well, if you want to be a tax preparer, you don't want somebody who's afraid of technology. We actually do the taxes online with the software from the corporation and provided and supported by the IRS. So you have to have a basic ability to use that and ability to understand the tax codes and stuff like that.
You're talking about greeters, but we also have people who take the phone calls and then guide those people through the schedules to the different preparers. So there's things that people can do.
That's right. And in terms of the numbers thing, I have to say I got a call that I remember of a young man who had done his own taxes, and it came out that it was down that he got this huge refund. And he thought that was pretty amazing. So he put the money aside for a few months, and then he got the letter that said, hey, you didn't put the decimal point in the right place, and you have to pay that money back. So that's, in general, if you can be logical about, does this make sense? And if it doesn't, for new preparers, we have mentors. We have preparers who's been doing it a while who can work with you, and we have quality reviewers to check to make sure it's done right. Because we didn't have a way of telling him, no, the IRS is not going to say, well, it's okay, you don't have to pay it back because you made a mistake.
Right. And if you want to volunteer, you can call 831-724-2606 or email Project Scout Office, one word, projectscoutoffice@gmail.com. So anyway, so we got all that out of the way. Now let's go a little deeper into some of the very important aspects and changes in this year's taxes. Let's start with the child tax credit.
The child tax credit, some people have been getting money monthly.
The advanced tax credit.
Yeah. The important thing to know about that is if you got some of that, you will get a letter from the IRS saying how much they believe you got. You need to have that letter with you.
That's letter 6419.
6419. Yeah, I never remember the numbers.
It just seems like a nice number.
Yeah. But I believe the top age for child tax credit went from 16 to 17.
Mm-hmm.
So,
right.
And that the amount you can get per child also increased.
Yeah, it's more, right? It's 3,600.
For less than 5 years old.
Yeah. And above 5 through 17, it's 3,000 for a year. And some people got it as an advanced, and some people will get it in their refund on this tax year.
Yes, and some people will have gotten part of it and will get the rest of it if they do the paperwork right.
So, like you said, more people can now qualify for the child tax credit.
Yes.
The actually phase out is not till 75,000 for a single preparer or 125 for a married couple filing jointly.
Any other things, Dave, about the child tax credit this year?
It's a big deal, actually, for people who have children.
And it says here that you'll have to have lived in the U.S. for more than half of 2021 and or be a bona fide resident of Puerto Rico, which, of course, is not happening a lot for people in California.
Also, the child must have lived with the taxpayer for at least for more than half a year.
Yeah. So make sure you bring all the information when you go to your tax preparer, whether it's for free or not, and especially if you have received a 6419 letter, which is about the advanced tax credit. You are listening to Exploring Santa Cruz on KSQD Santa Cruz. My guests are Jan Shirchild and Dave Andrew, volunteers with Project Scout, the organization that provides free tax preparation to low-income and elderly people. Okay, let's talk about the Earned Income Tax Credit. What changes are there?
So there's some great changes on the Earned Income Tax Credit. It used to be there was a minimum age that's been lowered to 19. And there was a maximum age which has been taken away.
It used to be 65, right?
Yeah, it used to be
That's
at
correct.
65. They said, oh, well, you might be eligible for Social Security, so you aren't eligible for this. So that's a huge change for low-income seniors.
And there's one major difference because the IRS realized that in 2020 and 2021, people may have earned less than they did before because of COVID. And so for the 2021, taxpayers are allowed to choose the figure to figure the EITC, the Earned Income Tax Credit, by using their 2019 earned income, which would then get them a higher tax credit.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah.
And so what that means, if you think that might be the case, make sure you bring your 2019 tax return with you when you come.
Exactly.
Yeah, that is not available for California, only for the feds.
Right.
The federal tax
Yeah.
preparation. I also read here that people without dependents, they didn't used to get a high earned income tax credit. It has increased, which is kind of nice. Anything else about the earned income tax credit?
It is a totally refundable credit. You get it all. It doesn't just get your taxes down to zero. You get a refund if you have enough money withheld.
Which is important because it used to be that if you didn't have any tax liability, there wasn't much you were getting. But now it's totally refundable, meaning you get it either as a decrease in the tax that you have to pay, but you actually get a refund.
Same with the child tax credit.
Right.
Yes.
And the other interesting thing what we didn't mention about the child tax credit is that even if you have no income, you can get child tax credit.
There used to be a minimum income that
Right.
you had to have, which means it's essentially supportive money for low-income families, individuals and families. So it's a really great thing for our low-income communities.
Right. Let's talk about the deadlines.
So the deadline this year, I believe, is April 18th. And if you get an extension, it's October 17th. And if you are outside of the U.S., when the filing deadline hits, you have till June 15th. For extension, it's December 15th.
Great. So that's one thing. Let's talk about calling for appointments. If people want appointments, what do they do?
Yeah, you call the Scout number that you gave.
The 724-2606, 831-724-2606. Call that number and leave your message.
Also, you can do that via email.
projectscoutoffice@gmail.com and give your information about where you live, your phone number, and possibly
helpful.
if you're under 60 or over 60. That makes it very easy for us to schedule appointments for you with different people.
And for people who are bringing things, sort of the basic are any kind of income you receive, all the 1099s, all the official documents that you receive from the IRS or other people, and the Social Security card or Social Security statement, and a picture ID, and then information about anything else that might be different for your situation.
So I have here a list of things that people bring to their appointments or send over email, an intake sheet that we will provide, a consent form if it is over the internet, Social Security card, driver's license or other valid ID with a picture, recent tax return prepared and completed. 2020 would be great, but if you would like to benefit from the higher EITC with your 2019 taxes, bring that one also. Any W-2s, 1099s, Social Security, retirement, etc. If you are an independent worker, bring, of course, all of your costs and your income from your business. And if you receive the advanced child tax credit, bring that 6419. If you have a breakdown of donations to charity, bring that as well. And, of course, your cost for medical expenses and, of course, any health insurance coverage, such as a 1095.
Yeah, if you have insurance through Covered California, you do need to bring the 1095. The other thing I wanted to mention is that if you have investment income, you probably won't get the final forms until March, sometimes end of February. We won't be able to do your taxes till have all your forms. The intake sheet that you fill out will ask you questions about what kind of income you have. California also will be asking you about health insurance. The federal doesn't have a penalty anymore, but California does. So you need to make sure you bring your information on having health insurance.
Dave, do you have anything to add?
I think you pretty well covered it.
There's one thing I want to mention because I was just so pleased with it, that qualified former foster youth or qualified homeless youth, they are getting, if you meet those requirements, you can get earned income tax credit, etc. So it's important that people look at their situation. If you're not sure, ask an organization like Project Scout for your situation if you can get support. Those are basically the things that we want to talk about. Anything that I didn't mention, Dave, that you want to bring up?
By the way, immigrant thing that just reduces to, instead of 19, the minimum age is 18 for that
If you don't,
kids in that program. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jan Shirchild and Dave Andrew, for sharing your expertise and experiences. And of course, we're still on. We have here Katie Fairbairn from the Santa Cruz Community Credit Union. Talk a little bit about the long time involvement with tax preparation and the VITA program. Welcome, Katie.
Well, thank you, Mathilde. I appreciate having the opportunity to be here. So I have not been with the credit union for a long time, but I was able to do some research and talk to some of the folks who have been around for a while. And from the history that I was able to determine, it appears that the credit union has been involved. We either ran it or we were a partner with another agency for the last 20 years. For the last 5 years, we've been a partner with Project Scout. And for the last 3 years, we've provided just shy of $50,000 in direct financial support to the program every year. The reason that we participate in the program is because a lot of times people will say, well, what's your nexus? What is the connector? There's nothing more close to a connection for us as a community development financial institution. As a CDFI is our role, it is our job, it is our commitment to provide services and support to those that are underserved in different markets and populations. So Santa Cruz Community Credit Union was one of the first designated a CDFI credit union. We're also designated as a low-income certification and a Juntos Avanzamos. So what all of that means is that, again, it's our job to serve those who need us the most. The Scout program, it's interesting because I was listening to everybody talk about those people that left an impression. And I think it's incumbent on all of us to do whatever we can to make people's lives better. And it's part of our role in society to lift people up. So the credit union takes that commitment very seriously. It's the lens that we talk about when we talk about new products, when we talk about services, what we're going to do. It's exciting to see the numbers, to see that we talked about this earlier. In the last 2 years, 2,825 people had their taxes done by the Scout program, and over $2.7 million came back through Santa Cruz County as a result of those tax preparations. As with many things, if you have an opportunity to sit down with an expert and the expert can talk to you about what the government allows, what tax preparation looks like, ask the right questions, try and determine if they can maximize the support for that person. And so that's what's so wonderful about this program is that you have the ability to talk with somebody and say, well, let's see if you're going to qualify for the earned income tax credit, because that's money that often gets left on the table that people aren't aware of, that they aren't aware that they'll qualify. I have a long background in community college work, and there were a lot of students that didn't think that they would qualify for financial aid or federal, state financial aid. And we would say, come on, sit down for a minute and let's ask a few questions. You might qualify. I kind of look at getting qualified for EITC the same way. All of us want to do the best for ourselves. And a lot of times people who need the most support, or they just need somebody to explain it to them, to talk to them. And Mathilde, thank you for your volunteerism. Thank you for being a part of a program that truly does make a difference in people's lives. I think you get to see firsthand the difference that it makes and financially how it helps people. I could talk all day long about the credit union and say all kinds of good things because I think we're the best, of course. That's my job. But I do think it's a scary question, but what would it be like if we didn't have the VITA program? There's almost 3,000 people that wouldn't get served, perhaps. That would be a huge impact, not only economically, but socially, and I think heart-wise, because there's all these people then that wouldn't get the support and the help that they desperately need. Last year, when I saw some of the people dropping off their paperwork, they seemed very shy, and sometimes harder for them to ask for help. So
yeah, this year, of course, what we do, we have actually face-to-face appointments. Last year, COVID was pretty scary, and then people would drop off there, and then it would come a week later to pick up their papers. There was communication, and I was involved in that too. And believe me, I am not the only volunteer. There are a lot of people involved, and I have some great friends in the program, and every year we make new friends.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. People bring their information, And if they can sit in front of you and you can have an open discussion with them, more things will come out.
Yeah.
And sometimes people have forgotten paperwork and then they get so upset.
Yeah.
And then we said, okay, how far do you live? Go home. I have another appointment this time, or come back next week. Whatever it is, we tell them. It is truly remarkable, the positive response, not only in their relationship with us, but for themselves. People go away and they feel like, I got my due. I am entitled this, and I don't feel entitled because, most of them are shy, as you said, but they are entitled, and then they get what they're due, and it makes them happy. They shared with us how happy they are, and they go away for another year. And the next year they say, do you remember me from last year? That's what I really like about being in the community room that you have offered to us at the Community Credit Union. It is a pleasant environment. It is enclosed, so people are not coming in. There's not a congregation of all kinds of people, kids crying, watching videos on cell phones and things like that. It is very calm and very pleasant, which means we have more opportunity of asking the correct questions, not leading questions, but the correct questions about if they have given to charity, for instance. And you and I talked about it, and I know we don't have time to talk about all of that right now, but it allows us to really analyze a person's situation and provide the support that they are due. You're providing that location. You have supported it financially in the past. And your mission, I'm glad that we're doing it because we help you in a way,
Absolutely.
accomplish your mission.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you all the volunteers and the Seniors Council, because it's a group of people that would be unrepresented without your help.
That's absolutely correct. So I'm thanking you for coming into the studio, giving people a little live interaction at least with me and Laura, who is our helper here. This is Exploring Santa Cruz on KSQD Santa Cruz. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks.